This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl, episode 61, September 11th.
Yes, well, I guess it's the John Dwyer interview, but it's also going to be the 9/11 special because even though we're recording this a couple of days before actual 9/11, this is going to be released on 9/11. And one thing I've been wanting to say for years, and I've said it to my friends, and I want to get it out to the world right now, because I was in New York during 9/11, and no one wants to be around such a violent thing like that. So every year they have this little memorial morning tribute where the wives or family members list everyone who died from the Twin Towers collapsing, and it's done in alphabetical order, and there's 3,000 plus people. What I've been wanting, and this is not to downplay that at all, this is what I want to say. I want to make it more universal and more compassionate. That I think what they should start doing is, as soon as that last name is read, immediately simulcast to Baghdad. Have all the family members list everyone that died in the conflicts that we've created in the Middle East since 9/11 illegally, particularly in Iraq, which is about 1 million plus people. And when it takes over a month of no pauses and it keeps on going, maybe that would draw a little bit of attention, just how outrageous and ridiculous our response was and still is, and how brutal, unnecessarily brutal it was.
Well, I have a lot of theories about 9/11, most of which I would rather not voice now.
That's fine.
After reading about 11,000 pages on it. All I can say is it was Dick Cheney in 1973 that said we needed a Pearl Harbor in the sky. You know who was in charge of security at the World Trade Centers the day before 9/11? Bush cousin.
Right.
A cousin of Bush. The only other thing I want to say about it is those buildings were out of regulation, and the real estate developer bought them, I think, from Port Authority, taking out a massive insurance policy. I'm not promoting any conspiracies. Look, the thing is this. Whoever did it, we were not guilt-free, because what followed was what made us end up in the condition and position that we're in right now, which is more war for no fucking reason. And I have to say, the only thing I'm going to give Trump, I'm not going to give him any compliments, but anybody believes that we should still be having wars in 2020. I just don't understand why we haven't come to another conclusion. I do not believe why anybody would volunteer for a war. I do understand dying for what you believe in. I believe in living for what you believe in to prove others wrong and outliving them.
Well,
saying.
That is the point, the conclusion. Because no matter what you believe about 9/11, conspiracies or it just happened or whatever, the result was basically what they wanted. That was the same no matter what. The
exactly.
Result, where we ended up was, it doesn't really fucking matter what happened. If the result's what it is, that was the intention.
We don't have time to go into.
Yeah, we don't have to go some.
One last thing about it. When 1,500 architects sign a petition to have it re-examined, and it isn't, need I say more? No, I don't.
And this is where it was interesting, because I was in Brooklyn actually, but I was in New York when it went down, and of course the thing kept on burning for like over a month. That's what people don't realize. I forgot about this until the other day. 4 days later, and this happened. I was like, did this happen? It fucking happened. I actually went underneath it. One of the subway stops was World Trade Center, and you couldn't get off there. But it started going slowly as we were going underneath it because they were trying to redirect all the lines. There's only a few people in the train car. Everyone went to the glass, and it was like this dark, dim subway stop underneath the buildings, and it was dust everywhere and pillars everywhere. It was like coming down. I was like, whoa, that was really bizarre.
All of the people, all of the cancer, all of the asbestos and other toxins that, everything is fine. The amount of first responders that have died, the amount of carnage it cost, unprecedented. And really, there's not much more one can say about it. It was just outlandish, outrageous, and probably avoidable, but we didn't. And it set off the chain reaction that Bush and Cheney wanted anyway.
And here we are now. We have Trump, who was a reaction to a lot of right wingers who supported Bush and Cheney, then got frustrated because their family members got involved in the military and they got killed or their limbs were blown off.
I don't understand why man is still so primitive, immature, and stupid that they think that killing is the only option to get somebody to agree with you. I mean, we know what it's about. It's just about domination, stupidity, and greed. All right, let's.
Well, and I'm going to move on to today, and this is the last thing I'll say about 9/11. The country was very unified afterwards. Everyone was so traumatized, and everyone's like, we support New York. So now we have in the metropolitan New York area after COVID, 33,000 people have died. 3,000 died in 9/11. So it's 11 times greater. And you're seeing a divided nation saying, screw them. You know, they didn't handle it right. We'd handle it. So you have 11 times more people dying, and you have people just basically like, screw off.
190,300 and something have died, 6 million contaminated in this country alone. It's beyond the pale, and it's not stopping. And one reason it's not stopping is people simply are too stupid to wear a mask or stop their foolish partying without social distancing. The police have been using what's called a geofence. Have you heard of this, Tim?
No, I don't know.
All right, well, a geofence, it's a device where they get a hold of Google or various other apps so that they can track anybody's cell phone within a small radius of whatever crime has happened. So basically,
God.
Oh yeah, and basically that has gone up 1,500% in the last 2 years. Now, you know, we all use Google, we can't avoid it, but let's face it, they are not our friends, and neither are most tech info gatherers, which they're out there. But at least 2 judges in Chicago struck down, because it does violate the Fourth Amendment, which protects against unreasonable seizure or searches. And some judges just said, you know what, this is just going too far. But this is the wave of the future, because it's not merely, it's the next step from CCTV. I mean, it's just the next step in Big Brother's tool to incriminate everybody.
Yeah, and unfortunately, with the defund the police, unfortunately, there's a lot of opportunistic motivations that are siding with it, or which is basically pro-surveillance, facial recognition, all the future, all that stuff. It has to be addressed because it's not stopping. And
it's not stopping. Okay, well, I'm excited about 2 books one that came out this week and one that comes out next week, which is the Hound Dog Michael Cohen's book, Disloyal. What a great name for a book. But also Bob Woodward's book called Rage. And Bob Woodward, you know, who investigated the Watergate scandal and many other, I mean, he's a pretty decent investigative political reporter. I think fairly trustworthy. Not always completely correct, but his book, and this is his second book on Trump, called Rage, that's coming out. And of course, the maggots, as I like to call them, they don't care anyway. It doesn't really matter.
So the American Academy of Sleep Medicine came out and said...
I thought you were going to say the American Academy of Sleaze Music.
No, Sleep Medicine. They're coming out with a new report, and they're saying...
Sleep or...
Sleep, like sleeping.
Hello. Are you suggesting I...
No, they're coming out with a report that's very scientific. They said we got to end this daylight saving stuff because the amount of public health and safety risks, they've shown all this stuff, whether it's cardiovascular disorders, mood swings, car accidents, and then of course tons of like hospital errors go up 18%.
Excuse me. Because most idiots get confused when their sleep is disturbed by 1 hour. They should live in my body. You know what? Maybe they sleep too much anyway. I think that most people sleep too much.
They want to go back to just a universal time. And people say it. I don't know. I mean, it was originally agricultural reasons is why they started the whole thing. I'm not sure. Not everyone does it. I don't think Japan doesn't do it. They always do their own thing. And some states here don't do it. But they're coming down. They're coming out with this. They really want to sell that. We'll see if we jump on that one.
And a leading church figure in the Ukraine who previously described the coronavirus outbreak as God's punishment against gay marriage has contracted and contacted COVID-19.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So the leader of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church is in stable condition, unfortunately. And there he goes, proving again that, and speaking about perversion, I found this tasty little article, and I can't believe that these beliefs, most of which were exported from the USA to other places, these are some of the tenets in religion which still hold, okay? And this is why it's just, call me a Satanist if you will, which means I don't worship anybody but myself, not even Satan. Okay, Tim, can you tell me this? What denomination would have said, and I'm going to give you a few.
Okay.
A race of giants once roamed the earth, the result of women and demigods interbreeding. They lived at the same time as fire-breathing dragons. Hang on. Evil spirits can take control of pigs. Hang on. Believers can drink poison or get bit by snakes without being harmed. And a talking donkey scolded a prophet. Now, who would have said that?
Mormons?
Evangelicals.
Well, evangelicals, of course. I think you're talking. Okay.
Okay, hang on. I'm going on.
All right.
You could see if you can name which religious fanatic said this. A righteous man can control his wife's access to eternal paradise. Brown skin is a punishment for disobeying God. Sacred underwear, this should cue you in.
Oh, wow.
Sacred underwear protects believers from spiritual contamination and, according to some adherents, from fire and speeding bullets.
Brigham Young.
Exactly. And in the end times, the holy one's chosen people will be gathered together in Jackson County, Missouri. Well, as far as I'm concerned, they should all go there now. Okay, one more test of your religious.
I got the Brigham Young. Cool. One for one.
You got one. Okay,
right.
we got one more to go. Okay. You can relate to this one. The foreskin of a holy one may lay safeguarded in a reliquary made of gold and crystal and inlaid with gems, or it may be ascended into the heaven all by itself. Also, when certain rites are performed beforehand, bread turns into human flesh after it's swallowed. And invisible supernatural beings reveal themselves in mundane objects like oozing paint. Come on, that should be cooking food.
Yeah, Hasidic Jewish?
Now, how about sprinkling water on a newborn, if done correctly, can keep the baby from eons of suffering should he or she die prematurely? Come on.
I should know this one?
Catholics, Christians.
Oh, Catholics. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, I guess. All right, whatever.
All right, a few more. The Holy One forbids a cat or dog receiving a blood transfusion and forbids blood meal being used as garden fertilizer.
Oh, boy.
That's abstract. I'm going to call it out. Christian Scientist.
Yeah,
okay.
There's
All right. Now, maybe Simon can answer this one. Waving a chicken over your head can take away your sins.
Oh, I know that one.
Hang on. Putting a dirty milk glass and a plate from a roast beef sandwich in the same dishwasher can contaminate your soul. I think Simon's soul has been contaminated. That's not... Hang on, I'm not done. There will be an afterlife in which... Oh, no, that's another one. Okay. Simon?
Those are kosher, Orthodox Jewish.
Simon Slater.
All right.
Called it out. Okay, I've got just one more for you.
Sure.
Actually, maybe two. Each human being contains alien spirits that were trapped by volcanoes and by a hydrogen bomb. Let me say that again. Now think about it. Each human being contains many alien spirits that were trapped in volcanoes by hydrogen bombs. Who else but Ron L. Hubbard?
Oh, right.
Would come up with something.
Well, that's not a religion.
Well, some see it as. Yes. Hey, okay, one last one. A supernatural being cares tremendously what you do with your penis or your vagina.
A lot of religion. Muslim, Islam.
All of them.
Exactly.
All of them.
Trick question.
Well,
I feel lucky I didn't have those stamps and curses.
Well, being I almost said son, which is true, being the son and daughter of a door-to-door Bible salesman who sold incredibly beautiful illustrated 10-pound Bibles and reading them at the age of 9 after suffering incredible pain that I've been incarcerated in for most of my life, I disavowed all religion at that point.
A very hungry man, Christopher Sale in Oklahoma, said, I'm starving here, but the problem is my clothes are still in the washing machine. So he decided to go to the Taco Bell. He thought, well, even if I'm nude, I can go through the drive-thru. And it turns out you can't drive your car in the nude in Oklahoma, because when he pulled up to get his Taco Bell food, they called the cops on him, and sure enough, he was surrounded and said, "Please get out of the car." And he said, "Well, I don't really want to do that. I'm totally embarrassed. I'm totally naked." So I guess he stepped out with a Taco Bell napkin covering his genitalia, and he was thrown in jail, but he's out now on $2,000 bail. All right, another thing, swarm of drones, unidentified, dozens, were observed hovering over the Palo Verde nuclear power plant.
I saw that. That's
in
kind of
Arizona.
terrifying. Kind of terrifying.
It's a closed, unresolved case. It turns out about 85% of drones being observed that weren't registered they never figure out who's doing it or what the motivation is. So that fucking happened. Of course, what else? LA hit a world record, 121 Fahrenheit in the Woodland Hills section.
2 million acres on fire. It's unbelievable.
49.5. Giuseppe Finara, who is a Cosa Nostra clan mafioso Sicilian, he got in trouble. He bit the finger off of one of the prison guards and swallowed it.
Tasty.
Where is it? He ate.
Speaking about being hungry.
Well, he was having a temper tantrum because of COVID. They're letting a lot of these people out, but he was not allowed out, and he went nuts. All right, so we can move on to animals. I guess this rogue monkey in Uttar, I can't even read my own writing, part of India. They finally contained this thing. It had bitten over 40 people over a span of like 2 weeks. The thing was hungry as shit, and it kept on breaking into people's houses and started just going nuts on their food and biting people and then getting out. They finally caught the thing, but it's been menacing that town, and I guess slowly going back into society. Now,
sounds like some of my friends.
So it's tarantula mating season right now. If you're in the southwest of the United States, you might, the tarantulas are not aggressive. They come out at night when they do all this stuff, so you're probably not going to see them. But if you look around, tarantulas' venom is about a bee sting. So you don't want to get, if you get bit, it sucks, but you're not going to die. But they're laying tons of eggs and they're doing their thing.
Tarantulas are very fragile. Having had one as a pet before, I mean, if they fall from a high shelf, they can die of a heart attack. They're really quite fragile. Oh yeah.
When we interviewed John Dwyer, it was a few months ago. He still hadn't determined whether he was going to go into Europe or not. It was still, we didn't really know where this was going. Of course, he's not in Europe.
I don't think, no, nobody's going to Europe. But did you see that article I sent you on Heathrow that they've established this huge testing zone? But Heathrow usually has about 240,000 passengers a day. Now they have 25,000. And I mean, what good is it? Because they're testing people and they're going to quarantine for 2 weeks.
I mean, so dumb.
The COVID is reemerging in Europe. It is not going away here. I can't wait to see the results in about 2 weeks after everybody went to the beach and had
they went to the beach.
barbecues.
I know. Well, you're talking about here, but even in Europe, I was talking to Sebastian about it. Speaking of Sebastian, in San Sebastian, they even arrested a surfer who they found out had COVID, and when she came in with her surfboard, there was a team of cops all masked up, and they arrested her because she had COVID. She was out surfing. I mean, Spain, everyone had to rush home because they're like, there was a new cluster in Spain, and so they had to quarantine, so everyone got home early. It's a fucking mess.
There really is no solution except for absolute, total, either shutdown or everybody shut your fucking mouth, wear a mask, social distance for a while, and let it play itself out. Now we have the fall flu is going to be coming. And also, I mean, what I'm most concerned about are the super spreaders that don't even know that they have it. I mean, this is the danger of this specific, incredible virus, that it's kind of magnificent in the way that it's so tricky. It has so many different symptoms. The long haulers, they're now saying that it may disturb your gut psychology for years.
I think everything.
It just seems to be able to get in there and do whatever it wants to do. And of course, most people do have some kind of existing condition because we live in a very unhealthy planet where the air, soil, and food are filthified by industry. I'm just amazed that we're all as safe as we are.
losing sense of taste and smell. It's all your brain swells up. That's why you're seeing strokes. You're seeing all the cardiovascular. It's very complicated. And now, New York brought it down to under 1%, which is amazing. It's at 0.85% spread. But now we're going back to school, so we don't know what that's gonna fucking do. It could be a disaster.
And you wonder why I dropped out just in time. Well, I guess that was about 45 or 50 years ago, but whatever. I mean, every day is just a new ridiculous disaster from the mouth of the con-mander in charge of nothing, who's just babbling like an idiot with his narcissistic personality disorder. I was looking up this thing called eudynamics, which is basically what Aristotle said was basically instead of an economic perspective, we need a personal perspective on how to make each and every one of us have a more fulfilling life by rejecting basically all the bullshit they try to shove down your throat, which makes you feel inadequate because you can't afford it all. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think this is going to be the big turnaround. We're going to have an Aristotle turnaround where people realize what they're shoving down your throats is bullshit. Stop buying crap. You're not going to have any money anyway. I mean, everything that you buy goes into the pockets of the enemy. And call in a strike of your dollar, especially when you don't have any. And in the meantime, in these times of quarantine, which I'm enjoying myself personally, improve yourself. And if there's something you don't like about yourself, all you have to do is change the script. This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and John Dwyer. This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, Weasel Walter is here, and we also have multi-instrumental composer, lyricist, singer, visual artist, head honcho of Castle Face Records, main man of the OCs. Did I leave anything out, John?
No, nothing worth mentioning.
Is that one of your paintings in the background there, John?
No, this is this guy Kyle Ranson did a mural at our house when we first moved in here. So it's this really oppressive, beautiful thing that I don't even notice anymore. This is the best lit room in my house. I experimented with multiple lightings, and this was the one that enhanced my image.
So this is a new house that Scott Alexander worked on. He was telling me.
Yes, actually, Scott was here the other day. He's still a lunatic. I went to his house. We had a social distancing movie night, which was weird because I never get to watch movies in high def. So I felt like I was in a soap opera.
What did you watch?
The Rover, which I had never seen before. Post-apocalyptic Guy Pearce. He still looked fucking great.
Amazing. Have you ever heard of this post-apocalyptic film by Richard Stanley called Hardware, which Iggy Pop plays a deacon? Yeah. Not many people know about that film, but it's pretty brutal and pretty beautiful and horrifying.
His flicks are all in that vein of darkness, but having Iggy Pop automatically makes it something I would probably...
What year was that?
I think it was the late 80s or 90s, yeah. Well, Iggy Pop then. I mean, Iggy Pop now, you might as well just... open another grave and
have him sing it.
now that he's gone softcore.
Yeah.
How's isolation treating you, John?
I'm good. I was a little bit built for this kind of stuff, so I've been recording a lot. I've been painting a lot. Just trying to make art and not get too worked up. I mean, it's impossible to not be flipped out. I mean, I can only imagine with you guys in New York. They've definitely painted great. You look amazing.
Talking to Weasel or me?
All of y'all.
Well, look, I live in the lowest zip code. The lowest rate of infection is my zip code. That's because I've killed them all already.
Yeah, they already got what you got.
But when I'm either on tour or I'm in my apartment, basically quarantining. I see Tim Dahl occasionally. I'm kind of loving it.
Yeah, you got more time to get to know yourself.
Oh, honey, trust me. I need to know myself. I tried that the other night. I could have driven a Mack truck across country before I actually achieved the conclusion I was looking for. I've been painting a lot of skulls red. It's like my red plague.
I'm digging it. Yeah.
You haven't shaved. Have you been showering? I'm just asking.
I have been showering, yeah. We built an outdoor shower last year, so that's kind of a nice little sunny moment every morning. It's LA, so it's, it's like 80 some degrees today, so I just go out there and get butt naked in my yard and hose down like the scene in First Blood with less cops. I'm always curious what it's going to look like, and it turns out it looks my skin color.
Is it itchy?
No, I've transcended the itchy phase.
You know what I always say about facial hair? If you have more on your face than I have on my puss, honey, you can't go down there.
Yeah, it's too much. Yeah,
It's itchy.
like the gauntlet and the sentinel at last.
It's itchy. Although I don't know, maybe I could use a little friction.
I feel worse for my girlfriend than I do for myself, I'm sure.
You've been painting a lot.
Yeah.
So have you done a lot of the art on your album covers your stuff? Is all of it your stuff, or
no? Most of it's not. Occasionally I'll do a record cover, but for the most part, in a long time, it's been a long time since I've done my own. We kind of scour the internet and find people that we dig, and people will get in touch with us. In fact, something I'm working on probably later on in the year is some kid off Reddit that somebody was like, check out this record cover that this kid, basically making fun of me, was like, this is the next record cover. And then I was like, can I get that from you? And he was like, are you serious? So, he was like, I think he was like, felt a little bit like an asshole, but seems like a cool teenager. He's like a bit of a troll, so I'm going to use his record cover. But we farm out to a lot of artists and try and get them paid too,
I just saw somebody, never heard of him, don't know who he is. One dude made one action figure of me. I'm like, wait a second.
Please tell me it's life size.
But didn't they make dolls of you in Japan a couple of years ago?
The thing is, it wouldn't be a blow up doll. It would be blow you doll.
How do you spell doll on that one?
DAHL.
Anyhow, so John, you got your successful band, you got your own label, you're a busy person. Did you at one point say, you know what, 2020 is over and I'm just gonna do my thing and plan for 2021? Or were you kind of like pushing the scale a few months to see like, is it gonna happen? Is it gonna happen?
I'm of the mindset that, I'm going to listen to whatever like the CDC says or the World Health Organization kind of vibe, but also I refuse to cancel anything early because I don't feel like if I cancel it now or a month out, it's irrelevant to our fans, So like we still have a tour booked in Europe in July, which more than likely. Yeah, I know. But that being said, we have backup dates reserved, but I definitely realized that I'm going to get all the shit done that I've been putting off for 3 years. I did all my housework and now I'm painting, which is something I never get to do, which is a total joy for me. I'm lucky.
Thinking about doing any remote performances, which might be the wave of the wave
but
of the immediate
you want that
future.
show. You want to yell at somebody for holding their phone up. You don't get the same vibe over the internet. It's hard to do drugs with people on Zoom.
I really like to perform for a very intimate crowd, so maybe I'm just going to go even more obscure than I already am. I don't know.
Play in like a truck stop bathroom.
Honey, I've already done that. Come on. Hey, ancient history, John. I'm not bringing up your ancient past. Actually, let's talk about your ancient history. That's not so ancient. You're still a young man. Well, too old for me, but that's all right. You're in LA now. LA is a pretty good quality of life, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, we're really lucky here. I left San Francisco 5 years ago when my girlfriend went down to UCLA to go to grad school. And at that point, I mean, I love San Francisco and I've been there for 17 years, but it was time. The last house I had was just shit. I fucking hated it. I didn't like the guy I was renting from, my neighbors, some of which were very cool, but the ones that weren't cool outweighed that. It was time. And I never would have imagined moving to LA, but kind of get used to anything, and now I love it here.
I mean, I lived there twice. I lived there for 2 years in the early 80s and then for 4 years. And what's weird about LA is, well, it's just fucking weird.
It's its own thing.
But it's a good quality of life. There are great people there. The architecture is amazing.
Yeah. I do like it here quite a bit. I think the art scene is great. There's anything to be had. You can find all different kinds of people to play with out here, and it's massive. So I mean, I'm still finding myself in neighborhoods I've never fucking been in. I have no idea where I am half the time. So there's a lot to explore. I'm still in unfamiliar territory in a lot of ways.
Do you ever go out to the desert?
Yeah, my drummer just bought a little house out in Joshua Tree, so me and him haven't been hanging out at all. I mean, fuck that. But hi, Paul. Mm-hmm. We go out to like Joshua Tree and stuff sometimes and just hang out. It's been a while. I haven't since this shit started. We haven't really gone anywhere.
Pioneer Town, right outside of Joshua Tree, it has some of the most amazing, landscape. It's lunar. It's like another planet.
Star Trek, I think, filmed a bunch of the early episodes out there. Probably Pappy and Harriet's was the bad guys in the first episode or something. Pappy.
Still the bad guys to some people. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about your beginning. And we started this conversation about how you no longer have the Rhode Island accent. It comes out with mom, you said, or maybe what about late night drinking? Does it ever come out then?
Make fun of me. It happens all the time. I mean, it happens, when I'm loaded, or if I still have a lot of friends from Providence. So like, Joel Kayak from Landed, lives out here, so I see him. And even though he's not a New Englander, he's from Pennsylvania. Something about hanging out with him gets me dropping my R's like crazy. We'll go to footsies and I'm like, get in the car, so it happens. It happens.
That was a self-conscious decision, or it just kind of
when I was a kid, I actually loathed the accent. I did. Like, not when I was really young, I didn't know any better. But then as I got older, I avoided it. But now I kind of embrace it. I'm slowly reintroducing it into my life by saying things wrong.
Oh, but also what's interesting is when you're a vocalist, and especially, we've both gone through many styles of singing. Sometimes you go through many styles within one song. It's like you don't like your voice. A lot of people say, "Oh, I don't like the sound of my own voice." Then talk differently. Then you can talk any way you want.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, it's an instrument as well. You can go anywhere with it.
So you moved to San Francisco in 98?
98, yeah. I immediately was in love. Me and Jeff Rosenberg, the other guy from Picker Brown, I was looking for places to live, and we drove across country, and we went to like Chicago because I thought I might want to move there because I liked a lot of music from there. Basically, same thing with Austin. I had been to South by Southwest and enjoyed that, so. But then I got out of the car in San Francisco, and the first thing that happened to me was I went into a cafe, and a girl was so rude to me that I immediately fell in love. Like she was like, oh, she was on the phone. She's like, some asshole just walked in. I was like, I can hear you. Immediately I was like, this is my new Rhode Island,
there you go. Yes.
Boats,
And so wait, how long was Picker Brown around before you moved to San Francisco?
It was actually started in San Francisco. It started in the basement.
Okay. That's what I thought.
A couple bands in Rhode Island, Landed being the only one anyone ever maybe heard of, who are still going to today without me, the Cox. But yeah, Picker Brown started. It was the first band I did reluctantly with Jeff Rosenberg, and nobody cared. Even Weasel can attest to this, but nobody cared until we broke up for a year, and then we got back together, and suddenly there were people at our shows who were like, "I always loved it," which was bullshit, but it was fun,
What was the first instrument you picked up, and how old were you, John?
My parents gave me a guitar for my birthday when I was 16. It was like a red Charvel, like stabby, hair metal guitar.
Yeah.
With micro tuners on it and shit.
Floyd Rose.
Something like that, yeah.
Yes,
with a stiletto tip on it.
Oh, yes.
But it got my house. Some guy named Vec broke into the house I was living in with a bunch of people. We were all selling acid, so it was like a real loose household, and broke in when I was away with my parents on a summer vacation, actually, and burned the house to the ground. So I lost my first guitar, my first crate shit amp. So I didn't really mind. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No roommates, though, thank God. Nobody died. But I did get a weird call when I got back to my mom's house from the vacation, because there were no cell phones then, really. I got a phone call from this girl, Heather, I lived with, that just said, "Don't go to the old house." So, of course, I went straight to the old house, and it was just the smoking maw, the earth. It was the house was burned to the ground, nothing left, just a foundation. Like I went through the ashes, no guitar, no Charvel.
Oh, okay. So you're 16. You get a guitar. What music are you into at that point?
I got really lucky with music early on. Like the first thing that I liked, that I've said a million times. So.
Say it again.
Yeah. It was AC/DC. That was the first band that I heard that I really liked. I never gave a shit about music. But then really shortly after that, I started going to this tape place called Luke's Tape Exchange, I think, in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, which was right near my high school. There was a guy that worked there that was really into metal, and they had tons of cassettes of metal bootlegs, like Voivod and Slayer,
I love Voivod.
Oh, huge fan. But they had all these cassettes of bootlegs, so I was buying all these bootlegs and back patches and shit.
Oh, yeah.
The guy that worked there started getting me into punk and was Bad Brains, The Cramps, Black Flag, SST in general, New York punk, that dude, I don't even remember his name, honestly, but he saw me with a skateboard and was like, "You'll like this, you little douchebag." And the skateboard was just a prop. I sucked at it, but it definitely got people to help me out with finding good shit.
I think Voivod are kind of underrated, or people they dismiss them.
Oh man, they're one of the best. It was that they were Canadian, that they never broke through outside of the metal scene.
Yeah. They were really weird. I mean, sci-fi weird, really almost like rock operas.
Yeah, and super jazzy too. I mean, I'm sure Weasel's a fan of that shit, and Tim too. It's just weird, off kilter for metal.
So okay, you're getting more into music. You're getting into more esoteric things, and then When did you hook up with just the kind of freak show that Providence has to offer, all the other musicians?
Mostly, honestly, Jeff Rosenberg had a huge hand in that. He was going to Brown, and he lived above the cafe I worked at selling coffee. That was like a job I just had, and I was living in a little shithole apartment. And me and him started talking, and he was like, we should jam. And we wrote some terrible music together, and then eventually Fort Thunder, which was a huge inspiration because that place was like, as a teenager,
Right.
That place was insane, man. Like looking back on it, I can't even believe we were lucky enough to have those guys there. That was like Lightning Bolt, Force Field, like even and like peripherally like Oneyville Sound System and like Landed and fucking like Six Finger Satellite. Just like there's a huge crop of really good bands in Providence that not only could I like go and or like Drop Dead. I remember going to see Drop Dead and being fucking terrified. And I was probably like 16 or 17. But there were a lot of good clubs. A lot of bands came through. There was the Living Room in Providence, Club Babyhead, even Lupo's and the Met Cafe to a more above ground way. But like a lot of underground shit, tons of hardcore, tons of noise.
Your guitar's gone. How'd you get another instrument?
Because I was selling weed and I had a lot of money and it's all I was interested in at the time. I just wanted to, I was like, I remember being like, I'm going to buy this fucking drum kit. And my neighbor just hating me, which now I look back on, I'm like, of course that fucking guy hated me. I was insufferable. I want the drummer was learning drums next door, But
so you just decided, okay, now it's time for drums.
Yeah, I'm just going to move around. I tried everything. Everybody wants to play drums. Not everybody's good at it. Obviously, neither was I.
We're in Providence still. You're kind of just taking in everything that interests you, and you're just cultivating different stuff, drumming, guitaring, all that stuff. And then somehow you're like, I'm done with Providence. I'm out of here.
Basically, I toured with Landed. It was like my first real tour, which was like something like 11 days out of Chicago. And I got a little taste of what it's like to go to a town, especially with that band, because it was such a freak show, to like really sort of terrorize an audience. And it was a big band with like playing on the floor in costumes. Dan, the singer, would like have a cinder block on a rope that he would swing around, and like just people would just leave, but the people that stayed were the people that were really yoked on this kind of stuff. And I got a taste. Not, mind you, I didn't get paid anything for it, so it wasn't like I was in it for the money. But I realized that at that point I'd kind of run the gamut of who I was going to be able to play with in Providence. Like the people that were left were like, I jammed with like Brian Chippendale, for instance. And almost immediately it was just emulating Brian Gibson on guitar, which I was like, I don't want to fucking fake, like Brian Gibson style, because Chippendale is just, a thing. And that's when I started looking around for somewhere else to go. I already had the idea for Pink and Brown in my head, but I didn't know who I wanted to do it with. And I just wanted to play more costumed rock, basically. I was young and dumb. And like San Francisco, I went there and took mushrooms. And the first band I saw was the Deep Throats, which was like a sort of trans punk, just a really fucking great punk band. If you never heard of the Deep Throats from San Francisco, highly recommend checking them out. But then also the metal scene, seeing like Space Boy and like Pig Iron. There's so many good bands at the time that I knew I'd be able to like inject myself and get somebody to play with me out there, even though I didn't know anybody.
What was your main instrument at that point, going to San Francisco?
Guitar. When I got to San Francisco, I didn't know anybody, so I was actually pretty lonely. And I was like, I'm going to learn how to fingerpick like John Fahey or whatever, So I spent a lot of time playing guitar. I also moved out there with nothing, so any of like the noise gear that we have been working with or whatever was left behind in Providence. I moved out with a Foot Locker and a guitar,
Were you, did you join Burmese very quickly?
Pretty quickly. I'd already been doing Pink and Brown, but I met those guys in Aquarius Records nerding out over the hardcore section and totally fucking lied to them and told them I could play drums. We just started talking. I was like, you guys looking for a drummer? I'm a great drummer. They were like, we have a drum kit, because I didn't have a drum kit. And I went there and it was like a snare, a teeny tiny floor tom, and like one hi-hat, not even the pair. I knew because of their lax drum kit that I would be able to get away with playing drums in that band. And it actually basically taught me how to play drums, was playing in this band where I couldn't play into the hardcore beats. But it was really, while it lasted, it was really fun.
Did they have two drummers at the time?
No, they didn't. No, the guy right before me was a little person from Iowa who's a real strange cat. Who's I never met him. No, it's not true. I did meet him once at Gabe's in Iowa City. But the dude, every story about this guy was what a fucking animal he was. Like he would like jump through a wall or some shit, So.
What year were you in Burmese?
That was probably like 99, 2000, and maybe for like a year or two. I don't even remember, honestly. They left me in New York City with a sleeping bag and a box of CDs. I told them that we should go outside so I could beat the living dog shit out of both of them. And they were like, what is happening? And they're like, you're out of the band, which in retrospect makes a lot of sense that they would have kicked me out of the band. But me and Mike Green still get along marvelously. And every time I see Mike Glenn, I got to say, Burmese is still a great band. It's always
John, nobody ever gets into a fight with you back then. I mean, what are you talking about? I can't believe. You almost got into two fights.
Yeah. It was, to be fair, Weasel's band at the time was like a real motley crew, and also no pun intended. But also, it was like a 37 shows in a row tour, so it was fucking grueling, even for a kid. And Weasel, this was my first time really hanging out with him, honestly, and he was like, "We're not gonna get along," and I was like, "Fuck that, we're gonna be besties." And he was like, "I don't know about this kid," and to this day, still very scissor friendly.
You're gonna have to retell it. Isn't this the notorious Shipwreck tour?
Yeah.
I remember you yelling at me, but I don't honestly remember fighting. So, but I do remember you yelling at me, like, "Stop touching my face" or something. You got really. I think I was chasing you. You were in your underwear.
Wait! Stop touching my face.
Look, I can sum this up. We were both young guys. We both were pretty feral, and I think this is really important. You know, I think both John and I come from like working class, feral backgrounds where we kind of had to like figure everything out for ourselves. So, I mean, the only reason why we were butting heads was probably because we were exactly alike in so many ways, you know?
I really grew to love Weasel Walter. So I'm glad that we had that time together to fucking fight it out, you know?
So John, I mean, so all right, your early touring experience, you ever have one where Burmese just leaves you on the other coast and you have to figure out how to get home? But that didn't discourage you.
Me home. I went back with Lightning Bolt, which was a total pleasure. That's why I'm on that fucking DVD there so much, because I was on the road with them. Because basically I remember, I think I was talking to Gibson. This was so long ago, I feel like I'm embellishing or making this whole story up. But basically I remember Gibson being like, "They left you? That's fucked up." And I was like, "Yeah." And then he was like, "All right, we'll see ya." And I was like, whoa, wait. I was like, "Give me a ride home, dude." And he was like, "Oh." But I think I earned my keep we had some laughs, you know.
Wait, give you a ride home? You mean home back to Providence?
No, back to San Francisco.
So they're on tour. They're just starting a tour.
I think I got left in New York City. I can't really remember, honestly, dude. It was just, I remember it was snowing out and I had my sleeping bag and we were like, "Fuck you." So.
I'm going to cut in for a minute about Burmese, because a few months ago, you know, actually March 13th, Retrovirus played the last show in New York before everything was closed down. And before that, we were in San Francisco and we played with Burmese. And Weasel was in Burmese. What year is Weasel?
Oh, geez. 2007 to 2009 or something.
Okay, well, let's put it this way. Weasel, when he was in Burmese and various other things, managed to get Burmese on a gig with one of the Teenage Jesus reunions. And that's actually where I first, I didn't know anything about him before that. And when I saw him play drums and he was smiling, he was so nice. I didn't realize he was a Teenage Jesus freak.
Fucking charming, yeah.
Well, he can be. And can also be a fucking arrogant asshole. And I like that part of him. I love that part of him too. I always say, bring the arrogance.
My favorite part, yeah.
But that's kind of when I noticed him. Just saying. Carry on.
But Burmese is there's something else. They're an action to behold. You know what I mean?
And they're still going, and they're still brutal.
I thought their set back in February was great.
They're fucking. They've developed. I'm not going to blow them too much here, but I've watched them change format and yet somehow have the thread of continuum of the brutality you're talking about the whole time. I watched them being like White House worshipers to turning into a slightly political band. You know what I mean? Like, that's not fair. They've always been pretty political, but you know what I mean? Like, they're an exceptional band. I was happy to play drums for them for a short while.
So did Coachwhips and Pink and Brown?
No.
It was completely a break off of one and the other one started.
Yeah, after Burmese and Pink and Brown, I kind of wanted to do something super, just primitive. And also then was like bands like the Oblivions would come through town, and I was getting super into like the really stripped down, like the Gories, Oblivions, all that. Like, I don't want to say retro because that's not fair to them because they were kind of doing their own thing, but like really fried recordings. Also Japanese bands like the King Brothers and Bolt Records and all that shit was so inspiring. And seeing those bands, seeing the guy from King Brothers eat a whole ashtray full of cigarettes at Chemo's And then afterwards, I went outside to tell him how great that was, and then he just vomited cigarettes everywhere, and I was just like, "Oh, the best thing I've ever seen," you know. So I wanted to do that, you know. I see something and I want to do my own version of it, and that's what that was. And I got John Harlow to play drums for me, who had never played an instrument in his life, and literally went out in the yard and pulled drums out of a bush. And we went to Sam Adato's, and Sam was like, "Dude, they're all moldy," and we let them dry out, and he put heads on them, and but I you know, we did reunion shows, and playing that stuff was very boring to me now. So it's like, time has passed, you know.
Well, I worked with Orrin Canfield with child abuse. He was there. A lot of my friends were in that scene. Nandor was hanging around that time. It would seem like just the Bay Area in that, was it the 2000 Zeros, was pretty nuts.
The first thing me and Nandor did was punch each other in the face. You remember that? Weasel?
Wait. Repeat.
Nandor and me got into a fist fight at a Lutenbacher show, I think, at the Stork Club. And in the middle of the fight at the Stork Club, yeah, you can't help but fight at the Stork Club. If you're not doing cocaine, you have to punch somebody. He zipped my neck skin up in my sweatshirt, and I remember that the second he did that, he was like, oh, and the fight was over, and he's like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that, you know. And he took me in the bathroom and unzipped my neck skin from my sweatshirt. Like when was
the punch?
Nandor was my crack smoking nurse that night, and after that, friends for life, you know.
Well, it's funny because Orrin said it was you that zipped up the zipper into the neck skin, but I guess you were the victim.
Well, I might have done it to myself. It was a scrum, you know.
Yeah.
I will say that that's on YouTube. It's fully visible, and you can see multiple fights in the audience at the same time.
That was a dark night.
Absolutely.
Can I just? Yeah. I'm just gonna say, you have no idea how many times I've wanted to punch fucking Nandor in the face myself.
Do it. Do it. It's the perfect test. You know what? He can take a punch.
Oh, I can
get a little tiny Viking. Just give him one right in the nose.
But correct me if I'm wrong. If Orrin Canfield said maybe when you decided maybe you were going to go into the OCs, you're basically like, you know what? I'm sick of playing in front of just a few guys every night.
I mean, I don't recall saying that, but I probably did say that. You know, we had actually a shocking amount of females at the shows. I remember, like, every now and then, you know, looking at photographs or something, I'll be like, wow, I can't believe there are any women at this, frankly. Not because they don't have good taste, but because they have good taste. So that band did okay in terms of that. I think for me, it was just like it had gone through a couple iterations already. I wanted to go in a direction that was a little bit more full, maybe. Also, before I did OCs out of Coachwhips, we did OCS, which was very quiet. Ironically, it was at the peak of my speed and cocaine abuse. So the more high I got, the quieter I wanted to be, which is odd to this day.
Oh, no, it isn't. But the more I know about you, John Dwyer, the more I like you.
Well, you know, you could smoke meth and play acoustic guitar in a closet quietly all night.
I'll try that sometime.
Don't do it, Lydia.
Was it the first or one of the first OC show, that Halloween show with child abuse in San Francisco? It might have been your first show. You set it up. And
where was it? Remember? Was it at a warehouse?
No. It was at that bar, the horseshoe-shaped kind of bar.
Eagle.
Yeah, exactly.
The Eagle. Oh, that yes. Eagle. The SS Eagle was the best place to play in the whole world, in my opinion. It was my favorite fucking bar. I loved taking.
Great vibe.
Yeah, for sure. Really.
Was it a gay bar?
A lot of vibe. Yeah. It's a leather daddy bar. I loved bringing like slightly homophobic East Coaster bands there, and they'd be like, I don't know, and I'd be like, you're gonna love it.
Is that your interpretation of child? Is that your interpretation of my band?
No, not you guys. I knew that Orrin was okay with the poll, but like, you know, just bands from the East Coast. I'm not gonna say any names, but they would be like, I don't know, and I'd be like, you're gonna love it. And then at the end of the night, every single one of them, every time was like, this is like one of the best shows we've ever played. And I was like, yeah, because I fucking love leather daddies. I gotta say, especially the Eagle sort of transcended all rules. They loved rock and roll, which was like to the point where it was like ludicrous. Like you could bring the most butt rock band in there and they'd be like, fuck yeah. Like it was an interesting joint. It's still around. It's changed a lot. It's still great. But it's, you know, when it started, it was like a little wonderland. And coming from a, you know, white straight guy, it was really weird that they were accepting of me though. You know what I mean? Because I felt like we would bring a lot of straight people in there, and I don't ever remember really getting a lot of shit for it. They let the crowd mix up quite a bit, you know? And a lot of my homophobic friends drank themselves gay there and never went back.
I'll introduce you to Big Lou, who lives inside me sometime. I think you'll like him.
Big Lou, I already love him.
Thank you. Weasel's probably the only one who's not. Weasel and Tim are not afraid, but most everybody else runs.
On that show, you had a costume. I think it was like a horse stuffed animal pullover. The whole costume of like you're a person riding a horse. And
that was Petey. I remember the show now, and that was Petey Dammit, my bass player or other guitar player at the time.
Oh, okay.
Had a costume, one of those classics where you look like you're riding on the back of a horse. He was always very good at the cute costume trying to get laid vibe at Halloween, whereas I would always be like, I'm a cat with feline leukemia and never get laid.
Early plushies. Oh my God, plushie. No, please. No plushies. Oh, God.
That's for a different podcast.
Yes.
Later, you came to New York and you played some show at Zebulon where you're playing free jazz drums, but I hadn't really known you that well. And then a couple years later, I turned on late night TV and there's the OCs on one of those, Carson Daly or something like that.
He played drums with us.
Carson Daly played drums with you?
Yeah, and he came, so this is a good story. I'll do it really quick, but he said he was going to play drums with us that night, and I was like, okay, and of course we were high, so I was like, I'm going to make him fucking do it. And then while we were playing, I was like, hey, last song, Carson Daly, come on out. And he kind of was like, no. And then I called him a chicken. And I remember his assistant being like, don't call him a chicken on TV. Don't call him a chicken. And so he came out and he's like, all right, I'll fucking do it. And right before he started playing, I was like, it's a 9-minute song. And he went, no, wait. And then we went into the song. And that dude, that poor fucker had to play drums with us for 9 minutes. And I remember turning around being so pleased that he was so sweaty.
But isn't that how that guy, I mean, isn't he always kind of like the frat boy that gets kind of like,
he was actually all right, I got to say, because I kind of loathe that kind of shit, and he was really easy to deal with. And, I mean, he just came to one of our shows and filmed it. It wasn't like we had to go into a fucking studio. It was at that club in Austin that always had everything was wet for some reason. Like, they hosed the club down. It was Red 7, I think, or some shit. It's like they hosed it down. Like, I don't know what the fuck. I remember being like, why is the top of the toilet wet? The walls are wet. It was an awful place. It was a surprisingly fun show considering it was supposed to be televised. I remember going back and watching a bit of it, which is something I never watch yourself on the internet. And that show sounded particularly bad and I looked pretty bad and it was mortifying, but it was fun in person, you know?
Also, Ty Segall was a good friend of yours, correct? His success is growing. Was that a parallel thing or just coincidence? You guys were kind of independent.
We kind of came up at the same time in terms of the both bands we were doing. I remember the first time I saw him play, he was playing drums for the band. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a really good like garagey band. But he was playing drums and he had a cast on and he had a drumstick shoved in the cast and he was actually pretty great. And I was like, this fucking guy. And then I saw him play solo and he came on tour with us and, I did his first record. I think at the time, it was much like Providence. We were both pretty lucky that there was a huge circuit to play on of all these great clubs and warehouse spaces and shit at the time. You could basically approach like a garage and be like, hey, I want to throw a party here. And they'd be like, all right. It was a weird time where, things weren't getting shut down as much. And then there were all these great bands. It was like a good crop of young kids, not myself. I mean, even younger than me. Like his whole crew all went on to splinter into a million different bands, Part of our success is just due to the fact that I've been doing it for fucking like 23 years now. It's like if you kind of do it for long enough, eventually they're either going to kill you or somebody will come to the show,
Would you argue that OC's music in general is maybe more accessible than some of the other bands you had been in
I think it's still pretty. I mean, we kind of skirt a bunch of different genres. I mean, I would never expect to be like on Conan O'Brien's show, for instance. I don't think we're that commercially accessible, but I do think that there's a pop element that's undeniable. I mean, most of the noisiest shit I like still has this weird hook in it, like I love hooky metal like Voivod or Slayer, you know what I mean? It's like those bands. White House is a perfect example. I love White House's later stuff because they finally added a beat, and you're like, this is like this weird tumultuous sneakers in the dryer drum beat, but still.
Is that a hook?
It's got a weird hook in it, and like I always loved, like Throbbing Gristle. It's like I love somebody that takes the aesthetic of pop and then turns it inside out. No wave and punk for me was a big like deconstruction of standards. You know what I mean? It's fucking cool.
Your music is very diverse. It's extremely experimental. It's fucking weird, but yet somehow you hooked people into it. Maybe by those occasional pop riffs you're talking about.
You gotta have a
and
chorus.
Your cool haircut. But I mean, face it, there's still not that many girls at the show, at least not the show I was at Warsaw when the Lutenbachers opened for you, but it doesn't matter. Also, you know, having the same name, unrelenting and releasing and being as productive, eventually, somehow, some people get some other people to hook into that. And there's no rhyme or reason why. You do what you do, as we all do what we do, because we have to fucking do it. Otherwise, we'd be institutionalized for murdering somebody else. It's like, there's only...
I don't want to be a killer. Yeah, don't make me murder people.
You can't help John, you can't help it, honey. There's a bit of Ted Bundy in all of us. Well, I'm speaking for myself.
I want to eat a man. I imagine that weasel would be a spicy meat.
Well, you know, it takes a lot to convince them to put it in your mouth, I'm sure.
It's interesting because I think OCs and OCS and all your projects sort of under that kind of banner, you just kind of wander to what interests you. And lately it seems like you're really into playing like epic lead guitar solos now on stage. When did that kind of come out?
Last year definitely was leaning towards the as bloated as possible. I wanted our songs to be like somebody had pulled them out of a river where they had been undiscovered for 2 weeks and they're about to burst, and it's, you know, gratuitous and I mean bloated. But it's funny because we just finished our new record and it's all like 2 and 3 minute long songs, and we kind of took a left turn, and I even went back and like revisited like the SST catalog of the later shit. Like, I don't think there's any fucking guitar solos on this record. It's like I really wanted to do a concise punk record. We were listening to a lot of Crass and even deconstructed punk, like weird little like things from like Faust tapes and stuff that are like these weird staticky guitar pop songs. Now I'm kind of leaning away from that again. It's like, that's what a band should be. Any art that you're doing should be your whim. Who fuck with anybody? Fuck the critics. Who cares what they fucking think? You know, this is for you first and foremost, like Lydia said, to keep you from going fucking crazy. And then second, if people like it, fucking great. That means you can perform it and maybe get paid. You know, there's nothing wrong with success. I just think you should fucking do what you want to do. I mean, you've always done that, for Christ's sake. I told you, they're going to love you when you're dead, Weasel.
I can't wait.
Like, that guy was a genius. Like, God, he would have loved to hear that while he was alive. What's wrong with you?
Could be any day now. Any day now, man. Any day now, hopefully.
You're like, clap, you assholes. Come on.
I have said that, yes. It's true.
Everybody dance. God damn it.
Well, John, the question is, you know, OCs are pretty successful as it is. You can kind of keep things going with that. What is your dream non-commercial project at the moment?
I brought some people out from New York a while back because I had a bunch of miles through the label. So I flew out. Ryan Sawyer and Peter Kerlin came out to play with me. And I would love to do more improvisation. You know, I've been doing a lot of that lately with like synthesizers and horns and shit, just whatever. It doesn't even really, the instrumentation is irrelevant. It's kind of going back to my very initial route when I was a kid, when I didn't know what the fuck I was doing at all, which was just to get together and jam with as many people as possible and find that corner where you can play with people freely without thinking. But improvisation to me is the most like dopamine fueled thing when it doesn't totally suck. I mean, it's very easy to go the other way as well.
Well, also look, I mean, playing the same 10, 20 songs night after night, there's only so much challenge involved. You're bringing, you know, the best game you can bring, but doing something that is in the moment spontaneous. And there's scientific evidence that the brains of improvisational, especially jazz musicians, are different because they're a bit psychotic than other people's brains. But it's something that you are in that living moment. And sometimes it's going to be the worst piece of shit you've ever heard. And sometimes it's going to be absolutely transcendental. I mean, I'm speaking from the experience of both being in the audience and being on stage with that.
It's true. I think it brings you alive. The older I get, the more hardened and numb I can become to certain things. So to be moved by something is important. And I think open expression like that, like having improvisation, when it goes well, it is like that moment where you forget yourself and it's completely zen. And that sounds really corny, I know, but it's absolutely true for me. It's like a necessary high. I love it. I've seen you guys. I even saw Retrovirus open up and fucking get free at that last show at the Echo out here. It was great. You guys were just running with the ball that night. You were also taunting the crowd in a way that was, but it was weird because it was a very loving crowd that night at the.
Well, you know, John, I always talk about the classic 77 Who concert when they had general admission and everyone gets trampled. My friends are making music where they're running out the door and everyone's getting trampled. They're not running in and everyone's dying on the way out.
Your band should be called The Why. Or
Oh,
something.
come on.
The Why.
We gotta stop that. We'll edit that.
Why?
It's called retrovirus for a reason.
What about Child Abuse? That's a great band name that brings them in the door.
That
No,
name
it
hasn't helped
doesn't.
us. Oren was like, even who came up with the name was like, we should change it. And I said, first of all, I wouldn't even have been in that band if it wasn't for that name. And second of all, I'm gonna bend over for a bunch of people that are gonna hate us anyways.
Or also don't understand the satire.
Well, you know, John, you could actually step up and be the biggest man we've ever known and invite Retrovirus to open for you, because you know what? Nobody seems to want us on the same stage. But I would go on at 9 a.m. I don't give a shit. But I would be.
Wait, in Europe? Are you fucking kidding me? I feel like they would love you.
No, of course.
Or in the UK.
No, excuse me. We go to Europe all the time. But I'm just saying,
Oh, you
I'd like to expose myself to some of your audience.
Everybody wants you to expose
I could expose myself right now, but only if that'll convince you that we need to open for you.
I would more than love to play some shows with you guys. It's just a matter of when the fuck the shows are happening, but we could talk about that.
This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, Weasel Walter was here, and John Dwyer, multimedia, multi-instrumentalist, composer, lyricist, singer, visual artist, castle face, honcho, and general fun guy, even with glasses and a 12 o'clock shadow. Thanks, John.
Yeah. Ginger. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.